Okay, so I'm all set up to start Junta. A couple of things I didn't mention in my intro. First of all, I want to thank Clambo. Both this and Dune, he was kind enough to have given me the Space Gamer materials that allowed the expansions there. And it really adds a lot to both games. They were both games that he never had any plan to pick up. But that was a very generous act many, many years ago, back when we were living together. And yes, he's the king of the bivalves. The second one is that the rules book, flipping through it, and I'd like to get to this maybe in the review or something, but just looking at it, you see these fun for 4 to 7 players as a heading. A turn in the life of the Republic kind of fits. Some of the cartoons are fantastic, and I hope I get to all of this in there. But then if you start reading some of the stuff like etiquette, these etiquette rules are good for you, trust us. You can immediately say, I recognize that kind of writing. That was in Paranoia. Well, yes, not the original designer, but the rules editing, Greg Kostikian. And that's his sense of humor in there. And it's fun to see that making its way into the game. Anyway, we're ready to start electing a president. And, well, I always kind of like this position as the guy who owns the game. So what's going to happen here is he's going to look through his votes, see if he wants to nominate someone. Now, here's the problem I have with this. This is a very interactive diplomatic game, and I've got to have a way of kind of marking down people who are in favor of one another, like one another. I kind of use the control markers, but there may be better ways to do it. Just look at his cards. Now, he has this vote card, which isn't terribly valuable, but he's going to be drawing 2 more cards. It's normally the flavor of the game for somebody to nominate someone else. I'm going to need some dice here. For the presidency. Not because the presidency is all that dangerous. It is sometimes. But because you get that favor, favor aspect of the game. I suppose in a very cutthroat game, you might not see that. He's not going to vote for anyone and suggest anyone, so we start going around, and you'll notice I play counterclockwise instead of clockwise here. Well, this guy has a handful of vote cards. Does he want to nominate himself? Yes, he does. So he's going to float his own little boat here and put 2 votes in favor of himself. That's not going to win him any favors, but he's got a lot of vote cards, and he kind of wants to see what turns out here. Our second player here, he's got the recount, which could cancel a vote. Summer recess, which stops it on the first round. He's got some interesting aspects here. Given those cards, he's going to throw a vote in for himself at 3 votes. I'm just going to put these, if they're voting for themselves, I'm not going to worry about it. Suggesting yourself is often not the best thing in the world to do. I've got a huge pile of votes here. I'm going to hold off for that first round. The expectation of playing. By the way, any face-up cards you have in play, like influence cards, I think those are the only ones that are face-up, but not your position, count against your hand limit size, which is 6 cards. This fella, he's got a special influence card, which only counts if at the end of a coup he's sitting in the chamber. A few votes. One person's in the lead, one's not. He's going to hold off as well, because these votes often are good at the end. This guy has some significant... Oh, he's got the monarchist and the monarchist assassin. Now, the monarchist assassin is cool. If you have the monarchist up, you are able to play additional stuff. With all the votes he has, he's seeing his situation. He's going to play himself in a tie and suggest himself as the person. Now things get interesting. This guy was holding a way to cancel the voting at the beginning at the session. He's not going to be able to do that now. It won't mean a thing. He could make vote cards disappear, but he's not going to do that. So that puts us over here again. You might as well play your vote cards. Now, there's one seating aspect to the game that's important to realize. If you are sitting to the slightly older seat, which would normally be just clockwise, which would normally be just counterclockwise of the president, right? Let me think. No, just clockwise of the president. Because if you're going this way, you want to vote for... Okay, let me try to express this in some method. If you're sitting just clockwise of the president, you're in a position where the president will want to nominate you for minister. The reason being that the minister shoots first. So the president gets to shoot last if he puts the person nominated directly to his left. Now, because I do things in reverse, we've got the opposite side. So this guy is going to vote for the orange character here. We're going to kind of place this here. And we're going to give him a little control marker to indicate he's got some goodwill towards that guy. Okay. Now that brings us to him. He's not seeing a lot of votes going in his direction. He does have another vote card or two. They're not terribly valuable. He can't win the election. Does he want to also support the sunglasses guy? He will also throw in for him. This is for himself, but these 4 votes now, oops, that's somebody else's, are going to the sunglasses, and the sunglasses gets a little goodwill towards him too. And I should use cubes or something to represent all this, but whatever. These are just mechanisms that I'm using to keep track of who likes one another. This guy's in a situation where he doesn't have any cards that can really help him. He doesn't have a lot of votes. So we go over to the mustachio. The mustachio says, I have 10 votes. I'm looking at 3, 6, 10 votes. I'm not going to be able to win this, but I could put that guy in the lead. Is he interested? Yes, he is. He's going to throw these cards down. This is a major support aspect where he's thrown 10 votes in to someone else. And now we go to this final guy who's sitting here with some pretty good cards. No, he's not. He's got 3 votes. So we're looking at 13 to 3, 7, 10. I could put this in a tie. Let's see if I want to. Alternatively, I could go for the other guy because it is still a close vote. So do I want to break the tie? I do. I'm going to also take this and drop one of my control markers here. Again, friendliness only. So that has driven, let me see what we got here. We've got 10 votes on one side to 10, 13, 16 votes on the second candidate here. This guy's chopped. He's the guy with the votes. So he needs a decent amount of votes, and he can come up with them. Between the bank and the monarchists, he wins the election. Now comes the question. This dude over here was in close running for this election, and he's going to play this card. The motion was not properly recorded. All the face-up vote cards go away, and we recount the vote. Okay, now that doesn't terribly help him. But it does change the dynamic significantly. This is gone. Let me make sure it's only vote cards in here and not influences. And this is gone. And now we have to do the 2 rounds again. But most people have played their vote cards. And I think everybody's going to pass at this point because the big cards may have been played already. His stance may be, hey, if I support the peasants, you have that, and I'll be handing this big vote to you. He's not willing to do that. He's going to vote for himself. So now the peasant has the chance of supporting the conservatives and beating the top votes sitting on the board, 11 to 10. And he will indeed do that. These are going away. This I'm going to get rid of. This is going to... We've already kicked that over here. We've got this combination. Can he beat this in some way? He's got some 10 votes. He does not have any more vote points. So, El Presidente has the conservatives on his side. And at this point, he gets to choose. Well, we actually start the game at this point because the cabinet appointments don't have to be assigned. And everybody's going to get fresh cards now. And we're going to see if anybody has too many. Hold off on that. Well, the green player was apparently sleeping. He didn't do anything during any of that. I didn't notice he even existed. We had some exchanges of cards going on. Green ended up handing him some cards he needed. He's thrown away the one he got that he didn't want to hand it off to anyone particularly. But actually, Green has given him some goodwill here, and with the card he also discarded this, which is kind of increasing the goodwill that the president has. He got rid of a coup excuse that he could have just played, allowing things to start out very unstable. He doesn't want to do that. His choice of president's in play, and he made sure to point out, hey, Mr. President, here, look, we're not having a party this year. So that's where we are after playing those out. And now we go to the cabinet appointments. And this is kind of the most important thing. The president has to decide whom to favor and whom not to. And to some extent, that kind of clears, some of these favors in my mind. If you give a little bonus to the people who are giving you a little grease each turn. As long as sometimes this game can really degenerate into a situation where there's almost a coalition running the game, and the other people, the unhappy, the have-nots, never really get a grasp on what they can do because they've got the wrong jobs and they're just being locked out of the government. The problem with that? Well, El Presidente might be able to manage things so that he's not constantly rewarding his supporters, but in doing so, he could piss them off tremendously. So it's kind of a tricky situation, and if you don't kind of balance the wealth and make it look like you're not walking away with a big pile, then, well, people get upset and they do bad things to you. All right, let me dispose of those positions, and then we'll see where we go from there. Well, El Presidente has appointed his cabinet officials. He's given the minister up here, which means the way I play, the president gets the final shot. Always an important thing. Since this guy's a supporter, he also gave him a general. That means the police are kind of superfluous, probably, unless I can gather them in the Chamber of Deputies. Over here, the Foreign Ministry, which gives lots, part of the draw of the money, as well as a general. The foreign minister gets intervention troops, strengthening the position there. I believe these debts are paid off, but there may be some degree. Oh, no, that one was supposed to go there. Let's swap those. Yeah, I gave it to the wrong person. I want to give it to my supporters because it starts getting too complicated if we don't. This guy's a supporter of him. Okay. That starts getting too complicated if you don't really reward your supporters, because that can create enmities that last the whole game. Over here, Green didn't do much. I'm going to give him the other two positions. Well, I'm going to give him, the other two positions, which is Farm and Labor and Admiral of the Navy. Again, a powerful combination here. Now, this general receives why did he give this general out? Well, he gave it out in particular because he's got the bribe for the 2nd Army Brigade. He could use money to prevent a coup from happening, from being as dangerous by bribing a general. The problem with the president is he only has the Palace Guard. The Palace Guard has an advantage fighting in the palace. It's noted here. He gets 2 dice for each Palace Guard firing. But that means he can't really go moving out. He's in a valuable location with a defensive bonus, so he would like more troops on the board. He may have some cards that give him additional pieces to play around with. But being able to bribe out somebody's general, especially after the person's moved into a position, is useful. He gave the weakest thing, the Ministry of War, to this guy. And this guy is unhappy. So he is going to question presidential competence. This means there's going to be an immediate vote. If there's a 2/3 majority to oust the president, there's going to be a whole new election. I don't know if there's that kind of votes. This guy has the support of 2 of the players. He's maybe not terribly miserable. I don't know. I'll come back after that vote's covered. Well, going around the second time, our friend, the bankers, monarchists, Christian Democrats, faculty, and our Air Force commander, does not like his position. He voted heavily against it. It looked like there was a good chance that it would swing over. This guy had refused to vote on his first voting turn, but he put all his votes in favor of El Presidente. He's expecting a big payoff here. So we're beginning to see a sort of a coalition here beginning to form. We're really, because these guys all kind of voted against El Presidente. Well, this guy voted in favor. But these 2 voted against. So we're seeing sort of an underclass forming. Now that underclass has a very powerful faction in it. But I think we are seeing an alliance already forming. Whether or not it'll hold for a long time, hard to tell. But the play of that pretender in the province was a bid. Now this guy's really on the shit list. And this guy obviously just being an opportunist trying to grab the position, but this guy is in the positive quite strongly, as is our minister, who's in sort of the bonus position where he wants to support this president anyway because he's likely to have the ministry. So we'll kind of, I'll leave that here. We'll kind of form a coalition here of these players, and I seem to be missing a green control marker, which isn't too big a deal. These players, 4 of the 7 players, have formed an agreed alliance, and that may mean that these other players get butt kiss in terms of the budget allotment. We'll see. Geez, I shouldn't have cut it off. Well, I go to the draw money phase, and I don't remember what order they choose in. I think it's the foreign minister first. Foreign minister is part of the coalition. He is going to say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's going to say he's going to draw 7 cards, and he's going to look at the foreign budget, and he gets to see how good these are. Now they range between 1s and 3s, with the average around 1 2/3, according to the. So we got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on 7 cards. That doesn't sound terribly good. This goes into the president's hand temporarily. Now this money has to be kept separate from the money that the president actually has in his hand for now. Because this is, if the budget fails, this money, there's a card that allows this money to fall to another player to reassign, but the president gets to pocket some of the money in that case. So you do have to kind of keep it separate for that one reason, which isn't clear in the rules particularly. And so now we go to the farm and labor, who is also going to give 7 cards. We're going to see a big budget. There's a big coalition holding things here. And he too gets to look and see how good that budget is. And also not too great. He knows there's a single $3 in there. The other guy knows there's kind of a poor budget. At this point, the president gets to assign that budget. We see how that works out. So this is how the president's kind of divided up the money. He doesn't have to announce how much he's getting. Of course, he's doing his services for free. But the amount of money that he's assigning to other players, he looks at his coalition and says, I assign 4 to each of you. And to the opponents, he's going to assign 1 to each of them. Actually, let's change that a little. He's going to assign 2 to the Air Force commander and 1 to the general who opposed him. Kind of a, here, I'm going to open up and offer you guys something. This money's not revealed. I've just got it out to help me see what happens. Now we actually vote on this, and this is again conducted from the person directly next after the president starting the voting. 2 rounds of voting as always. We'll see whether or not the budget passes. In some sense, this guy would kind of like to gather his police, but the president would like to see the budget pass. So if his minister is too intransigent and is voting against the budgets, the president may not be thrilled with these actions. Hard decision that often comes between, this is your natural ally, your minister, but he's always trying to create a sense of calamity so that if there's a coup, he's got his police set up. There's almost always a chance for a coup, but there is no coup excuse if nobody plays anything and the minister and the budget passes normally. Halfway through the budgeting round, we have 2 people voting. This guy with his big 10, 15, 20, 21 votes, and the president with 9. That puts us to 30. But we still got another round. Everybody else abstained. Nobody wants to talk. The president would like to hand out this budget. He walks away with a little bit more money, that's all. Well, when the minister saw where the votes were aligned, he decided to vote in favor of the budget. And in fact, our bankers here also voted in favor. So we're kind of seeing the coalition spreading apart in terms of it's a done deal. The only person I feel is really, really strongly in this coalition is the green player. He's really solidly kind of won this over by the guy who chimed in first for the situation. I'm not saying everybody's against them or anything like that. I'm saying that's becoming a very strong relationship. These guys followed suit and voted their tiny little amounts of votes in favor. Oh, I forgot about the Minister of War. He wanted to give the missiles to this guy, the newest weapons. He should have assigned that back during the cabinet appointments. This guy voted against. The one vote against. The money gets handed out. El Presidente sits on what he was planning on holding for himself. Although he could slip a little extra money to this guy he helped. And in fact, a lot of times you announce less money to people than you actually intend to give them with the okay, wink, wink, you're getting this much. I assign one to my great ally, and then you hand them a $3 bill, or you hand them more than one bill, or whatever. It's really neat to keep people guessing as the president. This time we had a kind of naive divvying it up and announcing how much there was, but once you get into the game and further into the spirit of it, you really start to, pull these little tricks and make these buddy games that are funny as hell when they're happening.